This is another SudokuPrimer video. Go to SudokuPrimer.com for more techniques and tips. This is puzzle number 63. It's a medium puzzle from Sudoku to Go, volume 88 by Soap Opera Digest. And in this video we're going to talk about a few different patterns. This should be a fun puzzle to solve because there are lots of patterns that we found. So I'm going to go through, first of all, kind of list the patterns that I want to talk about, and then we'll solve the puzzle. But before I talk about patterns, let me just mention that we've got three different kinds of containers in a puzzle. We've got rows, columns, and squares. I'll talk about those first, and then I'll mention three different patterns we're going to look at and show you how powerful these patterns are. First of all, let's look at these three different containers. We have rows, and there's row 1 all the way to row 9. We have columns, and there's columns 1 through 9. Oh, and by the way, this is row 1, this is row 9. This is column 1, this is column 9. So this is row 6 right here, for example. And then the third container is squares, which are these 9-cell groups. Okay. And this is square 1, square 2, square 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I might talk about rows, columns, and squares and mention them by number as I go. This is an easy way to mention which area of the puzzle I'm talking about. Okay, this is a medium puzzle, so it's not too hard. We could probably solve it using going through sections and solving for rows, but I found a fun way to solve this one by looking at patterns, and it shows you the power of patterns. First of all, we have right here in the middle, we've got a row with only one number in it. And if you go to SudokuPrimer video number 28, we talk about multiple births, so to speak, or in other words, twins, which are 2 cells with only 2 numbers, all the way up to non-uplets, which is 9 cells with 9 numbers in it. So right here we have octuplets. We've only got one number right in the middle here, so we've got 8 cells without numbers. And in this video number 28, we talk about how to take areas with more empty cells, like 7, 8, and 9 empty cells, and break them down into twins and triplets so that you can solve them easier. And I'll show you that in a minute with these octuplets here. We also have what's called gates. Anytime you have 2 numbers in a square, and there's a number in the cell in the middle, you've got what's called a gate. Okay, this is a gate, this is a gate, this is a gate. Have a gate here, here, here. And we also have gates here as part of these offset patterns. There are 2 offset patterns in this puzzle right now, but right in the middle of it there's a gate. Okay, now to use a gate, what you do is you look, like, let's look at this gate right here with a 2 and 9. You just look in this column here outside of this square and see if you can find a number that's not in this square yet. In this case we've got an 8. so that an 8 can fit in one of these three places here. And sometimes when you see a gate like that, you'll see, like in this instance, we've got an 8 going, looking through that gate. If you have an 8 in this row, in row 1 or row 2, then that'll narrow down the 8s. If we have an 8 in this row, we'll know that we have ghost 8s here, and therefore one of these can be an 8. That's not the case here, but I'm just illustrating that. So a gate can be, gate pattern can be helpful, but you usually need another number or another number of the same type, same number to help you along with that. And we'll use those gates here in a few minutes. I also talked about offsets. These are offset patterns here. We've only got one number here in this column that goes through these two offsets, but sometimes you'll see more numbers in a column where an offset is, and that may help you find a place where there are only two cells that can be that number. In this case, we've got an 8 here already, so if you look at this offset pattern here, you can't have an 8 here, so it doesn't help us. But if you look up here, an 8 can be here or here. Okay. Now if you have two numbers outside of this square in this column where there's an offset pattern, you know you have twins. So that's one thing you can do with an offset pattern, is look for twins. Now in this case, we've already got an 8 here, so we know that's not an 8. So we know there's an 8 here. I'm not going to fill it in yet, but that's another thing that an offset can help you with, is finding a single number. Then we have walls. There are two walls in this puzzle, right here and right here, and those are really going to help us in just a minute. Okay, so those are the different patterns we're going to look at in this puzzle as we solve it. And let's jump right into these walls, because this will help us break a lot of stuff down. Okay, you've got a wall here and you've got a wall here. And if you notice, this one has 2, 3, 5. Well, over here there's not a 2, 3, or 5 in this wall right here, so we know that there are triplets here, 2, 3, and 5. Okay. And conversely, there's a 4, 7, 9 here, and there's no 4, 7, or 9 here, so we know that we have 4, 7, and 9 here. Okay. So we have taken these octuplets right here. We know what the three numbers are here, although we can't solve all three of them right now. We can solve at least one right now. We also know these three numbers, so the only two numbers that are left are these two right here. So if we so we've taken these octuplets right here and narrowed them down to two sets of triplets and twins right here. Okay. So that's the power of walls and triplets and working with them together. Now let's look at this right here. Let's look and see what we've got in this row. See if we can solve these two numbers right here. We've got a 2, 3, 5 here and a 4, 7, 9 here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 and 6 go here. And there's a 6 there, so we got a 1 and a 6. Kind of a non-conventional way to find those two numbers, but how powerful is that? That's pretty powerful. Now there's another step to this, or another thing that you can do before we start filling in numbers here, which we can already. But even if we couldn't fill in numbers here or here, notice that in this section right here, this middle section, we've got 4, 9, 7 there and 2, 3, 5 here, we know what these three numbers are. And conversely, because we know these are 4, 9, 4, 7, 9 here, we know what these three numbers are. So therefore, we have broken this entire section down to triplets here, and since we know what all 6 of these numbers are, there are triplets here. And because we know these three numbers, we know these three numbers. And because we know these 6 numbers, we know these 3 numbers and these 3 numbers. So we know all of these triplets. We know what numbers go in those 3 places. So very powerful, using these walls to get started. We also broke down these octuplets down to twins and 2 sets of triplets right there. Okay, so let's start solving this. I'll put an 8 in right here. 8, 8, 8. We knew about that before. And now because I put this 8 in here, we've got an 8 here and an 8 here. We've got ghost 8s right there. So we've got 8 ghost 8s. So we know that's an 8. Okay. Let's look at some of these. Well, hold on here. There's an 8 and an 8 and an 8 right there. So we know this is an 8. Okay. We also knew that, let's see, 2, 3, 5. So these are 2, 3, 5 right here. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So these are 1, 6, and 8 here. So we know that's a 1 and a 6 right there. And another thing we can do, we got a 1 and a 6 here and a 1 and a 6 here. So we know that one of these 3, or 2 of these 3 are 1 and 6 right here. Okay. So let's start solving. We can't solve these 1, 6s right here. Let's look at these 2, 3, 5s. We've got a 2 and a 3 there. No 5s in this section, but we've got a 2 here and a 2 here, so we can fill in that 2. Okay. Can't solve the 3 5s yet. Let's look over here. 4, 7, 9. We've got a 4 here and a 9 there, so that's a 7. We've got 4 and 9 left. There's a 9 there, so that's a 4. And let's look here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 6, and 8. There's an 8. There's a 1. Can't solve those yet. Let's look over here. We've got, okay, if these are 1, 6, and 8, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so these are 2, 3, and 5. Another way to find that, I didn't mention before, is we got 2, 3, 5 here and 2, 3, 5 here, so we know these have to be 2, 3, 5. Another power of walls and triplets. Here's 4, 9, 4, 7, 9, 4, 7, 9. So we know these are 4, 7, 9. Okay, so let's look at these 2, 3, 5. There's a 3 and a 5 there, so that's a 2. There's a 5, so we know that's a 3. And we can fill in the 5. These are 4, 7, 9. There's a 7 and a 9, so 4. What's left? A 7 and a 9. Can't solve those yet. Okay. So let's see, 1 and 6 there, 3 and 5 there. Now let's look at this gate right here. We've got a 2, 8, 9, 2, 8, 9. So that doesn't help us. What about this gate right here? We've got a 3 and a 9, 3 and a 9. So that doesn't help us. 6 and 8 here. We know one of these two is a 6, and there's already an 8 there. Okay. Right, so let's see. Let's look at this row right here. We're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2, 6, and 7. There's a neither of these can be a 7 because we got a 7 there, so that's a 7, and then we have 2 and 6 left. There's a 6 there, so that's a 2 and a 6. Okay, what do we have left here? 1, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 and 4, we can't solve those, but it may help us over here a little bit. We know we've got ghost 1s and 4s here, so let's look at this offset pattern right here. It doesn't have a 1 in it yet, so one of these is a 1. Already has 4, 5, and 8. So let's see, we've only got one number left here, and that's a 1 missing, so put that 1 in. Let's look at this column right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 7 and 9. There's a 7. Okay, so what's this number here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got a 9 there. Okay. Alright, so we only have 3 left here. We know these are 1 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2, 3, and 7. There's a 2 and a 2 there. So that's a 2, 3, and 7 we can't solve yet. Let's look at this row right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 and 6 we're missing. There's a 1. Let's look at this row right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5, 7, and 8. There's a 7, so that's a 5 and 8. There's a 5 and a 7, so that's an 8. So that's a 5. So we have 5 and 7 left, and that's a 7. Now we're missing a 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 and 5, there's a 1 there, so that's a 5 and a 1. Okay, now we got a 1 and a 1 here, so we got a 1 there, and these were 1, 6, 8. So that's a 6. Let's see, we're missing 2 numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 6 and 8, there's an 8 there. That's 2 and 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 2 and 4, there's a 2 there. 4. Okay, 1 and 4 there. So there's a 4 there. So 1, 4. Only got one number missing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's a 5. Okay, what are we missing here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 and 6. There's a 1 there. 6, 1. 1 and 1 makes 1 right there. And the 6 left over from there because we got 1, 8, 1, 6, 8, 1, 6, 8, 1, 6, 8 there. This is a 3 and a 5. Still can't solve those. What do we have here? We had a 3 and 7. There's a 7 there, so that 7, 3. Okay. These must be 3, 5 also because these are 3 5s. There's a 3, so that's a 5. 3, 5. Okay. Only got 4 numbers left. 1, 2, 3. 9. 3 and 9, there's a 3 there, so 3, 9, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 4 and 6, there's a 4, so 6 and a 4. Okay, so we solved that pretty quickly and easily. So let's just review the patterns we used there. We used gate patterns, offsets, and walls. And we also talked about taking higher numbers of cells like octuplets and breaking them down into smaller groups of twins and triplets. You also saw the power of those two walls and how those helped you solve that middle section. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.